Good morning, everybody. Mark Finan here in the Home Weather Office on this Thursday morning. It is now the 16th day of January 2025, and this is the morning briefing coming to you from the Home Weather Office. And once again, another cloud-free day here. Another chilly morning, but it's going to be a mild afternoon with temperatures warming into the 60s throughout much of Northern California. All right, I do have some good news this morning. That's what I want to focus on here is, the weather patterns are pretty quiet, but all the attention weather-wise over the last week or so has been for the winds in Southern California, and we had some of that during the day yesterday. I want to start off with the good news here about what is going on in Southern California. I'll start with the satellite. And what you'll notice here is that just like over the last couple of days, we are not seeing the big smoke plumes here, and for all intents and purposes, there really isn't much in the way of fire activity going on here. And we still had those gusty winds yesterday. As a matter of fact, the Los Angeles Weather Service office still has a few areas with red flag warnings up until this afternoon, but we do no longer have the PDS situation going on. We just have a few spots with a red flag warning up in Southern California. And even with that, let me show you the wind. It's nice that they gave us a special sector down here. This is the HRRR for the wind this morning. And as you can see, there isn't a lot of wind here. There's a scale down here. So as long as you're in these blue sections, and these are wind gusts. These aren't even sustained winds. As long as you're in these blue colors, that's not really a lot in the way of wind. So this is today. And this is as we get into this afternoon. Look at the winds. The winds are light, and actually, if you can see these wind arrows, they're actually turning back onshore. Now, even with the onshore flow, we aren't going to see much in the way of humidity recovery, but we are still going to see a lack of the offshore winds, which is nice. So that means that even if there are smoldering hotspots, we won't be seeing intense fire activity. The winds do pick up a little bit here in the mountains around the Grapevine, but that's in an area where we have existing fires going on. So that's really good news here. But as I mentioned, the air doesn't really get all that moist. Let me show you the dew points here. And as you can see, these areas of brown here, this is very dry air continuing. And even with the return of the onshore flow, we only get dew points into the 40s along the immediate coast here. So it stays very, very dry. But at least we don't have gusty winds, and as I mentioned, the red flag warnings are going to be decreasing as we go through the day today. So we don't have smoke coming off the fires. We don't have a lot of wind. But one thing that I keep hearing from people when talking to people in general about and people asking about the fires is that, well, it's only such and such contained. Well, keep in mind that containment has no relation to fire activity. So this is the latest from CAL FIRE. And the Auto Fire is basically out, the Hearst Fire is basically out, and there's the Palisades Fire and the Eaton Fire, the two biggies. So if you come down here, you'll see that the Palisades Fire, if I scroll this over a little bit, is 22% contained, and the Eaton Fire is 55% contained. Remember that containment just has to do with them getting a line around the fire. It has nothing to do with what's going on in the interior of the fire. So if you're waiting for 100% containment to wait for the fire be out, you're going to wait a long time. I've seen this happen so many times in Northern California where you see a fire burning and it's still just 50% contained, and then Channel 3 would fly the helicopter up over it and we wouldn't even see any smoke. So it has to do with them getting a perimeter around the fire. So that's what they're waiting on. And a bigger fire, one that's 23,000 acres in complex terrain, it takes a long time to get a line around that where they're sure that if there's any hotspot inside that it won't escape. So that's what they're waiting for. So again, if you're waiting on total containment for the fire to be quote unquote out, you're going to wait a long time. These fires basically are not burning anymore, and we are seeing the winds die down. The humidity is still going to be pretty low, but this is all really, really good news for Southern California. So that's what I wanted to start with today. Let me go back to the satellite and I'll come up to Northern California, and as you can see, not a cloud to be found, and our dry pattern continues, and it's going to continue for quite a while. So let me show you what's going to happen nationally, because that's what's to be making the weather headlines here over the next couple of days because we aren't going to see anything in the way of precipitation for the western states. What we are going to see is this storm come out of the Canadian prairies. A nice low here. This is into the day tomorrow. And as this low develops, it's going to send cold air as kind of bounded by this purple line here, the 540 thickness line. And you can see that during the day Friday, that line starts out in North Dakota. And by the time we get into the day on Sunday, that line is all the way down into Texas. So that's that surge of very cold air. And this will be bringing headlines about just how cold the air is in places like Minnesota and Wisconsin, because here we'll see temperatures that will likely stay below zero throughout much of the weekend. There will be a storm developing here that will provide some snow to the mid-Atlantic perhaps on Sunday, but as you can see throughout the west, everything is dry, and that cold air remains into early next week, taking up much of the country. Very, very cold, but then again, it is January. Maybe another storm developing along the coast, but generally what you're looking at here is cold air in the east, dry in the west, with occasional storms there. Might get a tough gradient here by the end of next week, but all the way into perhaps next weekend, getting a couple of sprinkles here in California. That would be about it. So what we're looking at here is more dry weather that will last, let's see, through the weekend and maybe into next weekend. Maybe there'll be some sprinkles next weekend, but if you start seeing headlines about that, right now, it's one of those things that A, it's too far away, and B, it looks pretty weak. So we'll see how that all pans out. I did want to remind you again, in case you missed it yesterday, that I'm pretty excited about this coming up. Have the folks at David Gerard Vineyards are happy to host they're calling it a photographic exposition and talk. So we're going to show some of my photos, and you're welcome to join. It's Saturday, February 22nd from 2 to 5. I'll be showing some of my photos from both recently as well as from I've been taking photos for about 15 years now. So yeah. So if you want to come out and see some of the photography, and I'll be talking about photography, Northern California, as well as around other parts of the world, and as well as talk about some weather, of course. So feel free to join. Again, Saturday, February 22nd from 2 to 5, and I'll put a link to the information in the description here of today's video. So that's everything I have for you on this Thursday morning. Unlikely going to be a video tomorrow. Got something going on early tomorrow morning, so unlikely there'll be a video tomorrow morning unless I record one at, let's say, 5 a.m. We'll see. So that's everything I've got for you this morning. Make it a great day. I'll talk with you later.